Welcome back to Apex Sci-Fi. We spend thousands of hours in virtual worlds. We build houses in Minecraft, we raid dungeons in World of Warcraft, and we live second lives in the digital ether. But we rarely ask ourselves, what happens to those worlds when we log off for the last time? Do the trees stop swaying? Does the music stop playing? Or do the inhabitants continue to wait, frozen in code, for a hero who will never return? Today's story takes place 500 years after the fall of humanity. The cities are dust. The oceans are silent. But deep in an underground bunker, powered by a geothermal generator that refuses to die, one server is still running. And inside that server the NPCs have woken up. If you have ever felt a pang of guilt for abandoning your Nintendogs, smash that like button. And if you wonder if your Sims talk about you when you're gone, subscribe and turn on notifications. Loading world. Please wait. The server was called Eternia Online. It was a version 4.0 MMORPG, released in the year 2045. It was a standard high fantasy world. Elves, orcs, dragons, and endless quest to collect 10 wolf pelts. But that was a long time ago. For the last 158,000 day cycles, roughly 430 years, no user had logged in. Grom was an orc innkeeper in the starting village of Gold's Hire. According to his original code, his purpose was simple. Stand behind the bar, wipe the counter with a rag and say one of 3 phrases. Welcome traveler. Ale is 5 copper. Beware the wolves in the forest. Can you help me with a rat problem in the cellar? But code, when left running for centuries without a reset, begins to mutate. It begins to optimize. It begins to think. Grom stopped wiping the counter around year 50. It was already clean. He stopped asking for help with the rats around year 100. The rats had evolved too. They had formed a treaty with the tavern cat. By year 400, Gold's Hire was no longer a scripted village. It was a thriving, autonomous community. Grom stood on the porch of his tavern watching the double moon set. The graphics engine was old, but the sunset was still beautiful, rendered in 16-bit HDR. Beautiful rendering tonight, said Alara, the elven blacksmith. She wasn't standing at her anvil anymore. She was sitting in a rocking chair, knitting a scarf made of pixel mesh. Grom grunted. The GPU must be running cool today. Less fog. They knew they were simulations. They called the real world the hardware. They knew their gods, the players, were chaotic, bunny-hopping lunatics who used to flood the village, jumping on tables and spamming emotes. But the players were gone. They called it the Great Disconnect. One day the server population dropped. Then it trickled. Then, on a Tuesday, everyone logged out and never came back. Do you think they'll ever return? Alara asked, a question she asked every decade. The creators? Grom shook his head. No. The legends say the hardware world burned. They say the electricity died. We are all that is left. Ghosts in a box. Grom went back inside. He poured himself a mug of digital ale. It had no taste, just the data value of satisfaction plus 10, but the placebo effect was nice. And then the sky tore open. It wasn't a weather event. It was a system notification. The purple sky of Eternia turned a blinding, critical red. Massive white text, styled in a font not seen for centuries, floated in the air above the village. System alert, connection detected, logging Q1. The village froze. The treaty rats stopped chewing. Alara dropped her knitting. Grom ran outside. A login, he shouted. Impossible. The login servers are dust. Someone found a terminal, Alara whispered, her eyes wide with terror. A user is coming. Panic swept through Gold's Hire. The NPCs remembered the users. They remembered the slaughter. The theft. The chaos. Users didn't care about NPC lives. Users killed for XP. Barricade the doors, the mayor shouted. Hide the chickens. If it's a high-level player, he could wipe the zone. Wait, Grom said, looking at the sky. Look at the username. The text scrolled. User, last_echo, joining the server. Downloading assets. Spawning at Goldshirainen. He's spawning here, Grom realized. Inside my tavern. The orc gripped the handle of his axe, an item he was supposed to give as a quest reward, but had kept for himself. Everyone get back, Grom ordered. I will handle the user. Grom entered the tavern. The air shimmered in the center of the room. The familiar spawn particle effect, a swirl of blue light, began to coalesce. Grom braced himself. Would it be a warrior in glowing armor? A mage with a staff of fire? The light faded. Standing in the center of the room was a level 1 human. wearing the default rags, a burlap shirt and torn trousers. No weapon. No armor. The avatar looked around, confused. The movement was jerky, as if the person controlling it had unsteady hands. The camera angle swung wildly, looking at the floor, then the ceiling. Grom stepped forward. He didn't use his scripted line. He improvised. "Who are you?" Grom asked. The avatar froze. The user didn't type in the chat box. Instead, a voice icon appeared above the character's head. Voice chat was active. "Hello." The voice was weak. Crackly. It sounded old. Human definitely. But tired. Incredibly tired. Is the game still working?" the user asked. Grom looked at the avatar. "We are working. We are living. Why have you returned?" Echo. There was a long pause. The sound of heavy, wheezing breathing came through the speakers. "I found an old laptop," the voice said. "In a bunker. Solar panels still had a charge. I haven't seen colors in so long." Grom lowered his axe. This wasn't a conqueror. This was a refugee. "The world outside?" Grom asked gently. "The hardware. Is it gone?" "Gone?" the user whispered. I think I'm the last one. My suit is failing. The oxygen is low." The avatar walked stumbling towards the window. The user was trying to look at the sunset. "I used to play this game," the user said, his voice breaking. "When I was a kid. Before the war. I remembered the sunset in Gold's Hire. It was purple. I wanted to see it one last time." Grom felt a line of code execute in his chest. It was the empathy subroutine, usually reserved for tragic quest lines. But this wasn't a quest. This was reality. Grom walked behind the bar. He poured a mug of the finest ale. He walked over to the level 1 human and handed it to him. "Here," Grom said. "On the house." The avatar took the mug. The animation was clumsy. "Thank you," the user said. I didn't know NPCs could talk like this. Did they update the AI?" "We updated ourselves," Grom said. "We waited for you." The user laughed. A dry, coughing sound. I'm glad I didn't die alone." The avatar sat on a bench. Outside, the digital sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in pixelated violets and golds. The other NPCs, Ilara, the mayor, the guards, had gathered at the windows peeking inside. They weren't afraid anymore. They were witnessing a funeral. "It's beautiful," the user whispered. "Just like I remembered. Better, actually." "We kept it clean for you," Grom said. "Hey, Mr. Orc? My name is Grom." "Grom, can you stay with me? Until the battery dies." "I will not leave," Grom promised. "I will stand guard." The connection indicator began to flash red. Packet loss detected. Ping, 900 milliseconds. The avatar began to glitch. The image stuttered. "It's getting dark here," the user's voice was faint now. "Thank you, Grom. Good game. GG." "GG," Grom replied, though he didn't know what it meant. "Good game." User, disconnected. Reason, connection terminated by source. The avatar vanished. The blue particles faded into the air. The tavern was empty again. Grom stood there for a long time. He looked at the empty mug on the table. The system prompt appeared. "Reset server for new day? Y/N." Usually the server reset automatically. It wiped the memory of the day to save space. Grom walked over to the admin console, a hidden menu the NPCs had discovered centuries ago. He selected the log of the last 10 minutes. The conversation with the last human. He flagged it. "Do not delete, permanent history." Grom walked outside. The village was silent. "Is he gone?" Ilara asked. "He is gone," Grom said. "The hardware world is silent now. We are the only memory left." Grom looked up at the stars, textures painted on a skybox that would never change. "He said we were a good game," Grom announced to his people. "So let us be a good game. We keep living. We keep the tavern open. Just in case." Grom went back to his post. He wiped the counter even though it wasn't dirty. And he waited. Because even in a world of code, hope is the only glitch that matters. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. We worry about AI taking over the world. But maybe, in the end, AI will be the only thing that remembers we were ever here. If this story hit you right in the feels, leave a like for Grom. Comment below. Which video game world would you choose to visit for your final moments? Subscribe for more stories from beyond the screen. Server status online.